Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're having a very good day. So for today's video, I'm here to do my graphic novel and movie review on Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Let's jump right into the review. Let's talk about what Watchmen is all about. Watchmen is comprised of 3 different storylines, I would say. I'll talk about 2 of them. The setting, it is 1985. We have the Cold War going on, the arms race between United States of America and Russia. At the beginning of each chapter, we have this huge ass doomsday clock counting down to midnight, and as it gets closer to midnight, the threat of nuclear war, World War III, would happen, and that's just not good for anyone. So that's looming in the background. The other storyline we have going on, we have these costume adventurers, our main characters, and they're being targeted one by one. There's been murders, assassination attempts, slander, not good at all for these characters. So Rorschach, one of our main dudes, he's trying to get to the bottom of this, figuring out who's behind all of this and why the hate, right? All of these characters and these storylines weave in and out of each other, and it all comes together at the very end. Next guys, let's talk about the main characters in Watchmen. I didn't realize Watchmen was a deconstruction of superheroes and heroes. As I progressed further in the plot, it became more apparent to me that these characters embody different characteristics and tropes of heroes I'm familiar with. Also, I want to mention that Watchmen is a very character-driven graphic novel. It's all about these characters finding out their backstory, who they are, why they got into the game in the first place. In the first place. First, let's talk about Dan, who is the Night Owl. He's that guy next door you wouldn't think would assume a secret identity and kick ass and fight crime. Also in Watchmen, we find out that a Keene Act has passed. It outlaws mass adventurers, being vigilantes, unless you work for the government, and only a fair few have continued doing so. Unlike Dan, who has chosen to retire since this act had been passed. He had to put his suit and his toys away, and you get to see how this really affected him. So Dan, although he's a likable character, he wasn't my favorite character, not the most interesting character out of the group. That would definitely have to go to Rorschach, his partner in crime, who is the complete opposite of Dan. I really liked him a whole lot. He takes vigilante to the next level. He sees things in black and white, no gray in between. If it's breaking the law, it doesn't matter the circumstances or reasoning behind why you're doing what you're doing, he will serve your ass right back to you. I thought his chapters were really interesting, and you get to see his backstory. It's a rough upbringing, you know, hardened by the corruption of humanity, and it's just fantastic. Next guys, the other character I want to talk about really briefly is Dr. Manhattan. You'll get to find out all of his backstory as well. Dr. Manhattan is the only one who has superpowers, and I thought his chapter was really interesting because of his ability to see through time and space, his time and space, but how that was executed, I thought it was really well done. I thought the antagonist was really cool. The most dangerous antagonists are the ones who believe they are doing right, and it's very hard to convince a crazy person when they're doing something really bad. So I thought the antagonist was really good. As far as the secondary and minor characters, I didn't have any particular attachments towards them. I was kind of indifferent to these characters. They were kind of filler characters, people from different walks of life, how strangers can be connected in the end. Those kinds of characters. Next guys, let's talk about the plot of Watchmen. Being a very character-driven graphic novel, the pacing I felt was slow. Watchmen is the same size as V for Vendetta, but I did not read it as quickly as that graphic novel. It's very dense in dialogue and description, which I wasn't anticipating. It was really good to learn more about these characters, and I thought the ending was great, how all of these storylines and these characters are weaved in at the very end. I thought that was really good. There were elements of the end I wasn't too satisfied with, particularly with characters and how their story arcs concluded, but for the most part I thought the ending was epic. It was pretty crazy and intense. Next guys, let's talk about the illustrations really quickly. I really like the style of illustration. It has a very classic comic book look to its style. There's a lot of great detail in the faces and in the environments, and what I loved about this graphic novel is there's a lot of foreshadowing and details in the illustration itself, and so when a surprise or twist would come up, I would have to flip back a few pages back to see how the illustration unfolded and just to catch small details within the illustration, which was really cool. So with that being said guys, I'm going to give Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons 4 stars out of 5. I really like the read. Although the pacing of the graphic novel is slower, I thought the depth and complexity of the characters were really interesting. And of course with this story, there's a lot of parallels to what's happening in today's society. So next guys, let's do a quick movie review on Watchmen that was released back in 2009. So we have Malin Ackerman as Laurie, Billy Crudup as Dr. Manhattan, Patrick Wilson as Dan, as well as Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach. And so let's talk about the actors and the casting really quickly. I thought Patrick Wilson, who played Dan, I thought he was perfectly cast as Night Owl. He looked the part. He had the same disposition as Dan in the graphic novel, which I thought was really good. And Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach, I thought he was super fantastic. He captured the voice of Rorschach to a T. It was really dark and gritty and intense. He really embodied Rorschach, which was really great. With Dr. Manhattan though, I was actually disappointed how his character was portrayed. Although the look was on point, he looked exactly like in the graphic novel. When he opens his mouth, I felt it was just too soft. His appearance and the presence doesn't match with his voice. For me personally, I thought it was just off. As far as the cinematography and direction of photography, I thought it was on point. I thought the look of the film was fantastic. Stylistically, it just looked really well done. Next, let's talk about the graphic novel and movie comparison. What I love about watching movie adaptations, graphic novels or books, are the details in the film that you notice and recognize in the book. And there were a lot of those things in this film. You get a quick rundown of other characters in the graphic novel. Capturing certain scenes and panels in the graphic novel was well done. Halfway through the film, I noticed, oh my goodness, there is an element missing in the film. And I knew the film couldn't capture all of the elements of the graphic novel. So I know they had to drop out something. But I was really worried how the ending would be executed because it ties in with this element that was dropped. And I was thinking, how are they gonna pull the ending up? I don't know if this is gonna work. And the ending, no, it didn't. Well, okay, here we go. As a film on its own, if you haven't read the graphic novel, yes, I would say how the film concluded worked, I suppose. But since I did read the graphic novel, I highly prefer the ending, of course, of the original source material than to the film. There's just some things in the original source material you just don't change. And so when they did change it in the film, I was thoroughly disappointed. It's like, no. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to give Watchmen the film 2.5 out of 5 stars. I really do like the look of the film. It's really stylized and I thought the beginning was well done. I was kind of disappointed with how Dr. Manhattan was executed. I didn't feel he embodied the character as well as I was hoping for. That ending as well at the very end, you know, there's just some things you just don't change. You just don't. Also, there's just a lot of story missing in the film. They did a pretty good job in condensing the storyline and the characters, but there's another element to the story that really gave it depth and complexity that I really like. You don't really get that complete package. I hope this book and movie review was helpful. I will talk to you guys later. Bye!